My name is Danielle Carter. I'm 36 years old. And the strange thing about the moment your life starts slipping out from under you is that it rarely sounds like a disaster in the beginning. There's no shouting, no doors slamming, no dramatic warning that says, "This is the moment everything ends." Sometimes it starts with a conversation that sounds almost reasonable. I've been married to Ethan for 7 years, together for 9. We have 2 kids, a 5-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. I work as a logistics coordinator for a distribution company. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. $74,000 a year. I've been there 8 years. Ethan is a dental hygienist, makes around 62. We're not rich. We're not struggling. We're just normal. 3-bedroom house. Mortgage still sitting at $188,000. Both our names on it. Shared routines, shared bills, shared life. I'm telling you all of this because it matters. Because I need you to understand. I didn't have a backup plan. I wasn't secretly preparing to leave. I was just a woman with a Costco membership, a 10-year-old SUV, and a life I thought was stable enough to fix. Our marriage wasn't perfect. For the last 2 years, we'd been existing. Efficient co-parents. Functional roommates. We talked about schedules, groceries, bills. Not about us. We hadn't been intimate in 4 months. I knew something was off. I just thought it was normal. The kind of slow drift that happens when life gets busy and kids take over everything. I thought we'd find our way back. About a year ago, Ethan started reading self-help books. At first, I liked it.
Mindfulness, communication, emotional intelligence.
He joined an online book group. Thousands of people. He'd bring ideas to dinner. Some of them even made sense. Then, the language started changing. I need to honor my journey. I've been performing as a husband instead of being my authentic self. I didn't love it, but I told myself, this is just a phase. Give him space. 3 weeks ago, he sat me down after the kids went to bed. There was a book on the coffee table. Paperback, sunset cover. Sticky notes sticking out of it like flags marking something important. He looked rehearsed, like he was about to give a presentation. "Danielle," he said, calm, measured. "I want to take a marriage sabbatical." I blinked. "A what?" He explained it like it was something completely normal. A structured break, 3 to 6 months. Stay married, stay in the same house, keep raising the kids, but date other people
Freely.
with transparency. He said 6 months. He'd already thought through the logistics. Weeknights. When I had the kids, which I already handled most of because my schedule ends earlier, he even said I could explore too, like he was offering me something generous. I sat there for maybe 30 seconds, but inside my head, everything was already rearranging itself into something I couldn't unsee. "That sounds like divorce," I said. He laughed, actually laughed, like I'd misunderstood something simple. "It's not divorce," he said. "It's the opposite. It's about strengthening the marriage." "You want to sleep with other people and stay married," I said quietly. "That's not strengthening anything." His face changed, just slightly, like this wasn't the reaction he'd been coached to expect. "This isn't cheating," he said. "I'm being transparent." I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "Then I'll be transparent too. If you start dating other women, I'm filing for divorce."
Silence.
Then, "You're being reactive," he said. "The book says—" "I don't need a book," I cut in, "to understand what marriage is." He took the book, went to the bedroom, closed the door. I slept on the couch that night, not because he told me to, because I needed to think. And somewhere between staring at the ceiling and listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator, something clicked into place. He hadn't brought me an idea. He'd brought me a plan. He'd picked the nights. He'd discussed it with his group. He'd already decided. This wasn't a conversation. It was a negotiation where he assumed I'd eventually agree, which meant one of 2 things. Either he'd already checked out, or there was someone else. I stopped trying to figure out which one it was, because the ending looked the same either way. The next afternoon, I called a lawyer. A number a coworker had given me months ago, back when I thought I'd never need it. I didn't tell Ethan, not yet. I needed to understand exactly where I stood before I said another word. By Friday, I was sitting across from a man in a quiet office, listening to him explain how my life could be divided into percentages. No fault state. The sabbatical didn't matter legally. House likely split. Custody shared. 50-50. Or close. He looked at me and said, "Filing first doesn't give you power, but it gives you preparation." And something about that word, preparation, felt like the only solid ground I had left. I filed the following Monday. Ethan was served on Wednesday. He was sitting at the kitchen table when it happened. I was at work. He called me 11 minutes later. I watched my phone ring. Didn't answer. He called again. I picked up. "You filed?" he said. "Are you insane?" "You said sabbatical," I replied calmly. And I said, "It sounds like divorce." That was the moment everything became real. Not loud, not explosive, just final. "I wasn't asking for a divorce," Ethan snapped. "No," I said. "You were asking for permission." "That is not fair. Neither was asking me to watch the kids while you dated other women." He went quiet. Then he said the sentence that told me everything. "You didn't even give me time to finish the book." I almost laughed, but there was no humor left in me. "Ethan," I said, "I don't need you to finish a book to understand what you asked for." He hung up. I sat at my desk with my hand still wrapped around the phone, pretending to look at a spreadsheet while my whole body shook. Because people think strength feels clean. It doesn't. Sometimes strength feels like nausea, like trembling fingers, like doing the right thing while every memory in your head begs you to pretend none of it happened. That night, he came home calm. Too calm. The kids were asleep. I was loading the dishwasher. He placed that stupid book on the kitchen table like evidence. "I think there's been a massive misunderstanding," he said. I closed the dishwasher slowly. "There hasn't. The sabbatical isn't about other women. You said dating freely. That's the framework. We were supposed to customize it." "Great," I said. I customized it. "Mine is called divorce." He stared at me like I had become someone unfamiliar. Maybe I had. Maybe that was the first time in years he realized I wasn't just the person who packed lunches, paid bills, and made sure the kids had matching socks. I was still a person, and I still had a line. For the next few days, the house became a silent machine. Breakfast, school drop-off, work, dinner, baths, bedtime. We were polite in front of the kids. Painfully polite. I slept in the guest room. Ethan stayed in the master bedroom. Neither of us said the word divorce around them. That was the one agreement we still respected. Then his online book group got involved. One evening, he shoved his phone toward me and said, "You need to read what people are saying." I looked. Post after post. Strangers calling me controlling, saying I was punishing his vulnerability, saying I was weaponizing the legal system because I feared male autonomy. One comment said, "She wants ownership, not partnership." I handed the phone back. "Are any of these people family law attorneys?" His jaw tightened. "That's not the point." "No," I said. "The point is, you invited thousands of strangers into our marriage before you respected your wife enough to hear her answer." His face hardened, and that was when I understood. He didn't want a conversation. He wanted a jury, and he had already chosen one that would find him innocent. By the end of the week, Ethan had a lawyer. Good. I wanted him represented. I wanted everything clean. But the moment attorneys entered the picture, his tone changed again. He stopped asking me to understand. He started asking for things. The following Monday, he sat across from me at the kitchen table with a notebook. "I have a fair proposal," he said. I folded my arms. He wanted the house. Primary custody every other weekend for me, and spousal support for 2 years while he transitioned emotionally and financially. I stared at him. This man had asked to date other women while staying married to me, and now wanted the house, the children, and monthly payments. For a second, I was almost impressed. Not by the request, by the confidence. I said, My lawyer will respond to your lawyer. Why can't we talk like adults? Adults don't ask for permission to cheat and then request a prize when it backfires. His eyes flashed. You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being accurate. Then his mother called. She didn't say hello. She said, I don't know what's happening between you two, but Ethan says you're trying to take his kids. I closed my eyes. Of course. I'm asking for equal custody, I said. 50-50. That's not what he told us. Then he lied. She gasped, like I had slapped her. An hour later, his father called. Quieter. Sadder. Danielle, he said, is there any way you two can work this out? Divorce is hard on children. I know, I said. I wish Ethan had remembered that before asking to date other women while our kids slept down the hall. Silence. A long one. Then he said, very softly, that is not what he told us. No, I said. I didn't think it was. He thanked me for being honest, and when he hung up, I realized Ethan's story was already cracking. Not in court yet, but in the places where truth still mattered. At work, I barely functioned. My boss noticed. I told him the marriage was ending, and things were messy. He told me to take time for legal appointments. I nodded. I thanked him. Then I went to the bathroom, locked the stall, and cried silently into my sleeve for exactly 3 minutes. After that, I washed my face and went back to my desk. Because invoices still needed processing. Because children still needed dinner. Because heartbreak doesn't pause the world. The worst part was the house. Cooking in a kitchen he wanted to take from me. Watching our son build blocks on a living room rug that had suddenly become an asset. Reading bedtime stories in a house lawyers were about to divide. It made me feel like a visitor in my own life. My lawyer told me not to leave, so I stayed. Guest room every night. Door closed. Phone beside me. Listening to Ethan move around the house like a stranger wearing my husband's footsteps. And every night, before I slept, I wrote things down. Dates.
Times. Conversations.
Not because I wanted revenge, because I needed proof. Proof that I wasn't exaggerating. Proof that the life I was losing had not been taken by one argument. It had been dismantled, piece by piece, while I was still trying to save it. By the second week, something inside me had shifted. Not healed. Not even close. But steadier. Like the emotional chaos had burned itself out and left behind something colder. Sharper. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was observing. Ethan started coming home later. Not dramatically late. Just different. Instead of 6:30, it was 9. Sometimes 9:30. He'd say he was out with friends, or grabbing dinner with a coworker. I didn't ask questions. I didn't check his phone. I didn't follow him. My lawyer had been very clear. No surveillance, no confrontation. It won't help your case. So I didn't. I just noticed. And I wrote things down. Monday, 9:12 p.m. Wednesday, 9:37 p.m. Thursday, 9:05 p.m. Patterns, not proof, but patterns. The confirmation came from somewhere I never would have chosen. My son. It was a Tuesday morning. I was making pancakes. He was sitting at the counter, swinging his legs, waiting for syrup like it was the most important decision of his day. Mommy, he said casually, who was the lady who picked up Daddy last night? Everything inside me went still. I kept my voice soft. What do you mean, baby? I heard a car, he said. I looked out the window. Daddy got in. There was a lady driving. I flipped the pancake. My hand didn't shake. What did the car look like? Dark, he said. Shiny. Did you see her face? He shook his head. No, just that it wasn't you. Then he smiled. Can I have more syrup? Just like that. His world moved on. Because he was 5. Because syrup mattered more than secrets. I poured the syrup. I kissed his head. I took him to school. Then I sat in my car in the parking lot and stared at the steering wheel for 10 minutes. Not crying. Not panicking. Just absorbing it. Like a final piece clicking into place. I called my lawyer. He listened. Then he said, "This matters, but you need to handle it carefully. In our state, Infidelity didn't change property division, but custody? Custody was about stability.
Judgment. Environment.
A child seeing a parent leave at night with an unknown partner during an active divorce, he said slowly. That can raise questions. He paused. Do not confront him. Do not mention this conversation. Just document it. So I did. Date. Time. Exact words. 3 days later, I found something else. I was doing laundry, one of the last shared routines we hadn't broken. His jeans were in the basket. There was a receipt in the pocket. A restaurant I didn't recognize. 2 entrees. A bottle of wine. $127.43. Tuesday night. The same Tuesday he came home at 9:45. The same Tuesday my son saw him leave with someone else. I didn't take a picture. I didn't keep it. I just stood there for a moment, then folded the jeans, placed them neatly on the bed, and wrote the date down. I want to be very clear about something. I wasn't shocked. Not anymore. The sabbatical had never been theoretical. It had always been about this, about her, or someone like her. The book wasn't the cause. It was the excuse. What I felt wasn't heartbreak. That had already passed. What I felt was something quieter,
Colder. Relief.
because I had been right, because I had trusted my instinct when everything else told me to be patient, to be understanding, to give him time. A week later, mediation was scheduled. My lawyer said it was standard. Judges like to see effort. I agreed, because I had nothing left to argue emotionally, only facts. The morning of mediation, I dressed carefully, not for him, not for the mediator, for myself. Neutral colors, clean lines, no jewelry except my watch. I wanted to feel composed, even if I wasn't. We sat in a conference room, long table, water glasses no one touched. The mediator at the head, Ethan across from me, his lawyer beside him, mine beside me. He didn't look at me at first. When he finally did, there was something in his expression I hadn't seen before. Not anger, not confidence, something closer to uncertainty. His lawyer spoke first.
Primary custody.
The house.
Transitional support.
The same story. He was the stable one, the emotionally present parent, the one providing consistency. I didn't react. I didn't interrupt. I just listened, hands folded in my lap, heart steady. Then my lawyer spoke, and everything started to shift. My lawyer didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He just laid everything out.
Calm. Precise. Methodical.
Work schedules first. My client finishes earlier, he said. She handles school pickups 4 days a week. Then routines. She manages dinner, bath time, and bedtime on weekdays. We have documentation of this. He slid a folder across the table. Photos, calendars, notes. I didn't even realize he'd organized that thoroughly. Then finances. Both parties are employed full-time. Income difference is minimal. There is no financial dependency, and therefore, no basis for spousal support. Ethan shifted in his chair, just slightly, but I saw it. Then came the part that changed everything. My lawyer didn't accuse. He didn't say affair. He didn't mention the receipt. He didn't need to. My client has documented multiple occasions, he said evenly, where the respondent was absent from the home during evening hours while minor children were present. Ethan's jaw tightened. On at least one occasion, my lawyer continued, the child reported that the respondent left with an unknown individual at night.
Silence. Heavy. Thick.
The kind that presses down on your chest. We are not seeking sole custody, he added. We are seeking equal custody. But we do ask the court to consider whether this pattern reflects the stability being claimed. Ethan went pale. Not dramatically, just drained. His lawyer leaned toward him, whispering something urgent. Then she looked at the mediator. We'd like a short break. They stepped out. 15 minutes. I sat there, staring at the water glass in front of me, still untouched. My hands rested calmly on the table. But inside, my heart was beating like it had something to prove. Not victory, not revenge, just Confirmation. When they came back, everything had changed.
Tone. Posture. Strategy.
His lawyer spoke again, but this time softer. Mr. Carter is open to discussing more balanced custody arrangements. More balanced. Not primary anymore. The rest of mediation lasted 4 hours. 4 long, exhausting hours of numbers, schedules, compromises. But by the end of it, we had an agreement. The house would be sold. Equity split evenly. After everything, mortgage, fees, commissions, about $40,000 each. Not life-changing, but fair. Custody? 50-50. Week on, week off. Holidays alternating. Same school district. That had always been my goal. I wasn't trying to take his children. I was trying to keep mine. Spousal support? None. Clean break. Cars stayed with whoever drove them. Retirement accounts untouched. Personal belongings already divided. It was simple.
Fair.
Exactly what I had asked for from the beginning. 5 days later, the house felt different. Not tense, not hostile, just empty. Like the life inside it had already packed up and left before we did. That night, after the kids were asleep, Ethan knocked on the guest room door. He hadn't done that in weeks. Usually, it was texts.
Short. Functional.
This felt different. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded. He sat on the edge of the bed, looked tired. Not angry, not defensive, just worn down. "I don't understand how we got here," he said quietly. I studied his face. This man I had loved, built a life with, had children with, and for a moment, I saw flashes of who he used to be. Before the books, before the language, before the distance. "You asked me for a marriage sabbatical," I said. "I asked for space," he replied. "For us to try something different." "You asked to date other women," I said softly, "while staying married to me." "The book." "I don't care what the book said." My voice didn't rise, but it didn't waver either. "I care what you said." He looked down at his hands. "I thought it would bring us closer. It brought us to a mediator's table, dividing our lives." Silence. He swallowed, then barely above a whisper, "Is there any chance we can stop this?" There it was, the question I had imagined in 100 different ways, the one that, months ago, would have broken me. I shook my head. "No." He nodded slowly, like he already knew, like he just needed to hear it out loud. He stood up, walked to the door, paused, then left quietly. I lay there for a long time after that, staring at the ceiling. And yeah, it hurt. Not because I wanted him back, but because I remembered the road trips, the way he laughed, the night our son was born, when he cried and said, "We made him." That man had been real once, and now he was someone who read a book and rewrote our marriage into something unrecognizable. The house went on the market the next week, listed at $310,000. After everything, about $40,000 each. Real estate math.
Cold. Precise. Unemotional.
I signed a lease on a 2-bedroom apartment, 8 minutes away. Close enough that the kids wouldn't have to change schools. Close enough that their lives wouldn't feel like they were being torn in half. Ethan moved back in with his parents. I didn't hear that from him. I heard it from his father. His father called me one last time. "I don't agree with everything," he said, "but I understand why you did what you did." I closed my eyes. "Thank you. Take care of those kids," he added. "I will." The kids. They're okay. As okay as they can be. My son asked why we don't sleep in the same room anymore. I told him sometimes adults need space. He nodded, then asked if we could get pizza. We got pizza. My daughter is 3. She doesn't understand any of this. She just wants someone to read her stories. So I read her 3 books every night, and I will for as long as she lets me. I'm not thriving. I'm not broken. I'm somewhere in between, where everything feels a little quieter, a little flatter, but manageable. Get up, go to work, pick up the kids, make dinner, read the books, sleep. Repeat. That's my life right now. And strangely, it's enough. The self-help book is still sitting on the coffee table. I haven't touched it. I'm not going to. I'm not even angry at it anymore. It's just paper. If the next family finds it, maybe they'll throw it away. Maybe they'll read it. Maybe they'll use it as a coaster. It's not my problem anymore. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. When someone asks you to rewrite the rules of your relationship, while keeping all the benefits, listen to your first instinct. Mine said, "This sounds like divorce." And it was right. Go hug your kids. That part never needs a sabbatical.